Pastor Peter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition, the inaugural, the first ever Coffee with Peter, if that's what we're calling it. And I want to welcome our first guest, who is a very, very talented person, someone that I've grown to really appreciate, a member of our congregation at St. Margaret's. She served on the vestry for 3 years. She then also worked on the Missions Commission as the chair, and she currently serves as our grants coordinator at St. Margaret's Church. Please welcome Christine Feldmann.
Hey everyone, nice to see everybody.
So, welcome, Christine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, every day is an adjustment, but it's also an opportunity to do things differently and to appreciate what we have.
I bet there's a lot of stuff that we've had to do differently just over the last, has it been 3 months? I think it's been 3 months. And you, as a member of, as the coordinator for the grants program, what are the things that you had to do differently during this cycle?
Well, the pandemic really sort of struck near the end of our process. We conducted our last 5 interviews via telephone, and as well did our deliberations via phone. So that was an interesting process. Some folks were a little uncomfortable with it, and I think we're all getting through the uncomfortableness. But I'm really proud of the work that the entire committee did. And we've got 11 organizations that are going to benefit tremendously from the funds we're able to provide.
Yeah. So there were 11 recipients of the grants this year. How many applied? Do you remember?
We had about 40 applications, which is about double the year before. And we had a number of new organizations submit grants. So that's really exciting that the word is getting out about what we're doing at St. Margaret's, and we're expanding our reach. And we're providing grants to some really innovative and important organizations. We wish we could give to everybody who's submitted applications, but I think we picked a great group to support, and it's going to make a tremendous difference in the world.
I know you can't play favorites, but were there any organizations in particular that stood out to you that you'll remember?
Well, the Joel Nafuma Refugee Center in Rome really tugged at my heartstrings, not only when they had their interview, which was sort of pre-pandemic for us anyway, but they are doing such amazing work on the ground in Rome, serving the homeless and the transient and sort of the forgotten and ignored in our world. And I know that the money that they're going to receive is even more appreciated in the current situation that Italy and our country and our world is finding itself in. So exactly. I do have a little bit of a soft spot for them, and I'm really excited to get them their funds so they can do more great work.
And I believe this year that of the 11 recipients, am I right to say that 8 of them are in Anne Arundel County or local to Maryland at least?
I would say actually 9 of the 11 are Anne Arundel County.
That's awesome.
If I'm correct, maybe 8. It might be 8.
Yeah.
Or they at least 9 involve Anne Arundel County young people and residents. So we're really keeping it local and having an impact in our own community, which is exciting.
That's wonderful. And you were able to give out how much money in all these grants?
$113,000.
What?
Yes, which is tremendous and a significant increase in last year's $90,000, and it's going to do so much good. It's needed more than ever, and I'm very grateful to the Missions Commission for that funding, as well as to the endowment.
So you were saying that the grants program had to change a lot this year. But I was really pleased with how you were able to pivot so quickly into the online meeting that we all have to kind of deal with now, and being able to virtually connect, especially with people all around the world.
Yeah, it's tremendous that we're able to reach people, in Rome and Africa and South America, as well as folks in more challenged American communities that might not have the digital resources, but we were able to make it work. And I think because we all recognized the importance of what we were doing, that it wasn't a huge burden to anyone. We just made it work because we knew that it was our responsibility.
So looking forward, if you can, how do you think the 2021 grants program is going to look in terms of the new world that we're living in now?
Well, I think we've demonstrated that we can talk to people and do interviews remotely. We can have committee members Zoom into meetings. They don't necessarily have to all be around the same table. So that's sort of a simple thing that I think we'll be able to change next year. But I also think the need is going to be greater than ever next year.
Yeah, you'd think.
It's going to be extremely difficult to decide because there's just so much need in the world. And it's going to be from people that maybe have never needed it in the past. So it's going to be a balancing act between the sort of chronic needs that we always see and the new normal that we're finding ourselves in.
Do you have any ideas about how to get the word out more in terms of our programming, or
I
get
think
more applicants?
I think we're starting to do that, trying to reach out to those who are providing funding in different areas that we might not have sort of been a part of, more in the environmental community. We certainly have our own efforts at St. Margaret's, but we haven't had a lot of grant applications in that arena. We've had a few, but I'd like to see us get a little bit more involved. Things like prisoner reentry organizations. I really want to focus on reaching out to parts of the community that we haven't been able to serve through grants, and offer them this opportunity to apply as well. That's
wonderful. So looking into the future, I mean, everything's been turned upside down, and a lot of us have been, inconvenienced in a lot of ways, but it pales in comparison to the suffering that a lot of people are going through. So what are the things that you look forward to in the future that you think might change for the better after this pandemic is over?
Well, I certainly feel a lot more connected to people, not just in my own community, but across the globe. There's something to be said for going through a common experience together, whether it's, sheltering in place in your home or, serving food at a food pantry. That connection to the rest of the globe and to the larger community is certainly, I hope, going to be one of the silver linings of this whole thing. How do you not feel connected to your fellow man when they're in the same situation that you are, maybe even worse, but you can relate to what they're experiencing?
Well, hopefully you can relate. I think the difficult thing as we're going through this shared grief is seeing the lack of empathy from some quarters and the lack of compassion or consideration of others from some quarters, which is frustrating in some ways. It's understandable that we're all going to grieve in different ways, right? But I guess for me, I get concerned when I see people just kind of lashing out, because there is so much connection now, and there is so much goodness happening in the world that it's easy to lose sight of that.
It is, and it's easy to get sort of going down the rabbit hole in grief, like you mentioned about it. But then I choose to look at situations like the Allen Apartments, where we were able, through the Missions Commission, to provide, fresh produce to the residents there. We already had this connection with that apartment complex, but through our continued efforts, we're making stronger connections, and we're feeling more connected to those residents that we've already built a bit of a relationship with. So I think building relationships and expanding upon those is going to be critical to stop that divide that you're referring to.
Are you hearing anything from parishioners at St. Margaret's who are doing grassroots things in their own communities, either trying to feed people, trying to give work to people? Are you hearing anything like that bubbling up?
Absolutely. I think people are really eager to do their part. I heard someone compare our situation to World War II, in that there was this big groundswell of we need to be in this together and do what we can for our fellow man. And I do hear that from parishioners, people who are making masks, people who are delivering food, people who want to donate, people who are interested in delivering food to frontline workers. People are eager and desperate to help because they want to feel like they've got a little bit of control. At least I've heard that from some folks. It's something I can do to feel like I'm still able to control what's going on in the world.
People want to be active. They want to do something.
I'll take it. Yes, absolutely.
There's something going on in West Annapolis. I think there's a group of people who are kind of doing their own food pantry. So, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was there yesterday dropping off some food that St. Margaret's generously donated to this group. They created this pop-up pantry. They had a woman who saw a need. She talked to a friend who had an empty Airbnb. They've now created this sort of command post where they have food and they have clothes and toys and this whole army of volunteers, mostly moms, I will say, but some men, show up every day or every couple of days, load up the bags, take them out, and deliver the food. So it's just this constant sort of drumbeat of we're gonna support those who need us, and we're not gonna stop.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So thank you so much for all that you do at St. Margaret's. We would not be able to do half of what we do, even a quarter of what we do, without dedicated, devoted, and energetic parishioners like yourself. So thank you very much, Christine, for your help.
My pleasure.
And thank you for sitting down with me for a cup of coffee today. I hope that we can do this again sometime soon in the future. All right. Any last words at all?
I just want to send my love to everyone, let them know I'm thinking about them and praying for them. And thank you, Peter and Patty, for your leadership getting us through this really difficult time.
We do our best. Thank you very much, Christine. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.